Shortly before Roy E. Davis moved his base of operations to Louisville from Tennessee, F.F. Bosworth faced a very devastating, highly publicized failure in his faith-healing campaigns. A man that Bosworth claimed to be cured had died of the same disease that brought him to the healing campaigns. According to his widow, the victim did not die for lack of faith. The victim was very faithful. Bosworth's only response to the newspaper was, in my opinion, a poor defense. He insinuated that the man could have been cured of one disease and died of another. Bosworth went on to tell the news media of a previous failure wherein a deaf man was healed but failed to hear. According to Bosworth, the Spirit told him to avoid tobacco, and when the man did not listen to the Spirit, his deafness returned. Reminded of the Egyptians and Isis, I began to wonder, was Bosworth's God so powerless that he didn't realize the man had two illnesses? Did this God not have the power to both heal and to take away the sin? Suddenly, I began to understand why Bosworth published unhealed disclaimers in the Prophet's newsletter. He was familiar with the angry mobs that grew from a failed healing. Seeing the political and financial power of the men involved with the Prophet's ministry changed the way that I viewed his meetings. Up to this point, I only thought of the message as a religion. I never considered its political power or the amount of money that flowed through those meetings. Even early in my research, I had discovered a handful of people that the Prophet had healed who still died. Thinking about the crowds of people that filled auditoriums to see the healers, and how they must have been viewed by Cadell, Bosworth, Dowie, Davis, and other big names in the healing revival, my stomach began to churn. These were not faithful. They were assets to persuade, influence, control, and financially deplete. Did the Prophet view them in the same way? It was time to focus my attention once again to the Prophet's early ministry, and more closely examine his personal lifestyle. I'd already learned that the Prophet was not nearly so poor as he often described, but I also did not see any signs of an abundance of wealth during his early years. I decided that there were only three possibilities. One, either the Prophet was so fully devoted to his spiritual beliefs that he decided to mass persuade others to also devote themselves, or two, the Prophet was seeking wealth or power, or worse, or three, other men were using the Prophet for their own wealth, power, and strategic purpose. I knew the first option would be easy to prove or disprove. If the Prophet were fully devoted, that devotion would be manifested in his life off stage. The stage persona would match the person. I had already exhausted most of my resources for learning the Prophet's personal life directly, and they seemed as one might expect. They were his own descriptions of himself, using his own advertisements, titles, and subject matter that he himself created and gave to newspapers. For a minister, his early life was simply ministry. If I was going to gain any insight into his life off stage, I knew that I would need to begin by examining people in his inner circle who were not in the public eye or part of the stage act. I knew that the best place to start was with the Prophet's immediate family, those who did not travel with him in his evangelistic career.